And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mahmoud Akuga as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mahmoud Akuga. In this edition of the program, we bring you a mixed grill of politics and development in the Niger Delta, served as usual, hot and fresh. Our first issue in today's package takes a look at how the Niger Delta has fared after 20 years of civil rule in the country. Recall that following agitations for environmental justice and improved living conditions, the federal government had made attempts to pacify the region. How far-reaching have been the efforts of the federal government all these years? And finally, we'll go to Rivers State, where a long-standing feud between Governor Wike and Transportation Minister Wike and Amaechi has divided the people along political lines. Inside the Niger Delta, we'll be back after this timeout. Don't go away.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, determined to make a difference.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. It's been 20 years since Nigeria transited to a democratic regime in May 1999, a development that generated high expectations of improved living conditions for the generality of Nigerians, particularly for those living in the Niger Delta, where poverty had been fueled by environmental degradation and administrative neglect by successive military governments. In spite of the promised change, most Niger Deltans insist that their situation has further worsened under a democratic regime.
The years preceding Nigeria's transition to a democratic regime were particularly turbulent in the Niger Delta. During this period were pockets of resistance to environmental injustice and socio-economic exclusions, all of which were crushed by the military administration of the late General Sani Abacha. Among the victims of General Abacha's zero tolerance for dissenting voices in the Niger Delta were the Ogoni 9, led by the late Ken Saro-Wiwa.
The United Nations recognizes the rights of all the world's indigenous people. Indigenous people have been cheated through laws such as are operated in Nigeria today. We are going to demand our rights peacefully, non-violently, and we shall win.
The killing of the Ogoni 9 was widely condemned at home and abroad, prompting the new democratically elected President Olusegun Obasanjo to take measures to assuage the restive communities of the Niger Delta region. Under the Obasanjo presidency, oil derivation formula was increased to 13% to the benefit of the oil-producing states, while the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, was established to douse tension and promote rapid development in the region. 20 years after Nigeria's return to democracy, most Niger Deltans maintain that their situation has been worsened by the persistence of old problems and the emergence of new ones.
What we have seen so far is that governments at all levels, political office holders at all levels, have concentrated their attention on revenue more than anything else. And the government, particularly the federal government, has given more attention to maintaining the flow of oil so they can continue to export 2 million barrels per day based on the OPEC quota for Nigeria. And all the policy that we have been implementing, including the presidential amnesty program, is basically aimed at ensuring that oil continues to flow. There is no attempt, no real attempt to address the negative impacts of oil development. 20 years after democracy, that people are poorer, that there's more unemployment in the region, and that youths do not have opportunities, and that is creating the conditions for the escalation of violence, because you have people that are even going into kidnapping. The solution to this problem is not to criminalize community people, but to look at the real problems and identify what they are.
The federal government's inability to address the Niger Delta question after 20 years of democratic governance is blamed on the operation of obnoxious laws governing operations in the petroleum industry. Most social actors in the region are therefore calling on the federal government to hasten the process of enacting the proposed Petroleum Industry Act, which seeks to transform the operations of the oil and gas industry.
I mean, you look at the content and you see the key issues there, which basically addresses what we have identified in the petroleum sector as being the major issues. The fact that the governance structures in this sector is weak. The fact that NNPC plays the role of a massive colossus, basically sitting on a heap of mismanagement, corruption, fiat, and all that in the oil industry. That bill addresses those gaps.
The demand for social justice in the Niger Delta is a call on the federal government to quickly put a final stop to environmental pollution in the area and grant the oil-producing communities a fair share of the wealth generated from Nigeria's oil-rich region. 20 years of democratic rule, in the considered opinion of Niger Deltans, is enough time to address the Niger Delta question.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Belemaoil Producing Limited, an indigenous exploration and production company operating oil mining lease 55, has recorded another milestone with a recent approval granted by the federal government for the establishment of Belemaoil Terminal at Kola in Akukutoro local government area of Rivers State. Belemaoil Producing Limited heartily expresses its profound gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari for the approval, which will enable it have an alternative crude oil evacuation pipeline to transport crude oil to its terminal. The gesture is indeed a clear demonstration of the federal government's commitment to the implementation of policies encouraging and supporting the growth and expansion of indigenous operators in the oil and gas industry. In less than 3 years of its operation, Belemaoil Producing Limited has employed 3,000 youths and created over 4,000 job opportunities in the Niger Delta. And with the recent approval, the indigenous oil giant is set to provide more vistas of hope with the creation of over 10,000 job opportunities. The approval of Belemaoil Terminal, as conveyed in a letter dated 7th May 2019 by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, will expand the operational base of Belemaoil Producing Limited and further drive its mission, which is anchored on sustainable wealth creation and strategic partnerships with host communities. The management and board of Belemaoil Producing Limited equally appreciate the efforts of the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Maikanti Baru, and the Director of Petroleum Resources, Mr. M.D.B. Ladan, and the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, in making the Belemaoil Terminal a reality. Belemaoil Producing Limited acknowledges the role of the Rivers State government in providing a secure and safe environment that has guaranteed hitch-free operation in the state. As a responsible corporate citizen, the indigenous oil giant reiterates its resolve to operate in line with global best practices at all times, bearing in mind the urgent need to bring about a new narrative in the Niger Delta.
Inside the Niger Delta.
There was a prospective reconciliation between Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike and his predecessor in office, Wike and Amaechi, when recently the governor extended an olive branch to his estranged political ally. The peace move was immediately embraced by the opposition All Progressives Congress APC in Rivers State, which at a press briefing pledged to work with the government of Nyesom Wike, raising hopes for a more stable political climate in Rivers State. A few weeks after, the reconciliation move was clouded by yet another verbal exchange between the political gladiators, suggesting that the quarrel may be far from being over. Is it that the warring political leaders will not let bygones be bygones? What will it cost them to bury the hatchet and bring a possible end to the political animosity that has enveloped Rivers State on account of their differences? The following report attempts some answers to these questions. For 8 years, he loomed large as governor of Rivers State between October 2007 and May 2015. Before his governorship of Rivers State, he called the shots as Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly between 1999 and May 2007. Right Honorable Chibike Rotimi Amaechi, Commander of the Order of the Niger, is currently Nigeria's Minister of Transportation, who continues to bestride the nation's political space like a colossus. The 1987 graduate of English Language and Literature from the University of Port Harcourt began his political career as president of the National Union of Rivers State Students and later rose to become secretary of the defunct National Republican Convention NRC in Ikwere local government area of Rivers State. Throughout the course of his eventful political career, the Ikwere-born politician from Ubima in Ikwere local government area of Rivers State has been outspoken, audacious, always assertive, and sometimes obstinate when confronted with contentious issues, a disposition that has earned him many political friends and foes alike. In 2007, while trying to become governor of Rivers State, Amaechi disagreed and fell out with his former boss, Sir Dr. Peter Odele, as a result of party primary election complications, or K-leg circumstances, as aptly described by the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo.
Maybe you observed, maybe you did not. 5 flags were given. Now, the 6th flag has what they call K-leg. Just a little K-leg. And when we straighten that leg, then you will hear. And when you hear, you just stand by us that what we do is the best in the circumstance.
Amaechi's judicial struggle to become governor was blessed by the Supreme Court in a landmark judgment that pronounced him governor-elect in an election for which he was clearly not on the ballot. Instead of becoming a basis of reconciliation, the Amaechi judicial victory only served to further deepen the cracks in the erstwhile political family of Dr. Peter Odele, former governor of Rivers State. Today, one of Amaechi's major political rivals in his home state of Rivers State is his former chief of staff and Man Friday, Nyesom Wike, current governor of Rivers State. Governor Wike, in his battle with Amaechi, has equally proved himself a politician of substance and prominence. The 2019 general elections, as earlier speculated, became a sparring arena for the erstwhile political allies to test their strength and prove their mettle before a golden choir of praise singers. In the battle for the soul of Rivers State, Amaechi never left anyone in doubt that he was all out to dislodge Wike from the brick house for his alleged disloyalty and betrayal. And for his part, Governor Wike consistently drew public attention to an alleged plot to oust him from office, vowing each time to fight back. As things turned out, former Governor Amaechi became the first loser in the power game of Rivers politics when the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) delisted the All Progressives Congress (APC), which he leads in Rivers State in the 2019 general elections following a judicial determination of the party's internal feud. The exclusion of the APC from the general elections had disenfranchised a significant proportion of the electorate in Rivers State, including Amaechi's supporters. The party's misfortune came about after Amaechi fell out with Senator Magnus Abe, another close political ally of the immediate past governor of Rivers State. The bone of contention was the right man to fly the party's flag and weed out the Wike-led People's Democratic Party (PDP) from the corridors of power. As the story went, Amaechi's attempt to deny Abe his right to aspire to the governorship of Rivers State had seen the senator representing Rivers Southeast Senatorial District in the Senate fighting back to assert his inalienable right as a citizen of Rivers State.
All of us had a meeting of all the leaders. It was the first time that we were sitting together across the divide. Whether you are with Abe, you are with Amaechi, you are with anybody, we all sat together. And we agreed on how we will handle the congresses to keep the party together, where everybody will have an even chance to participate in the activities of the party. We had that meeting and we agreed. Chief Ikanya called the meeting. We even set up a technical committee to go and put that agreement into action. As soon as the minister landed in Port Harcourt, He carried all the things that we decided together and threw it into the trash can. He took the congresses to Intels and said that all those who do not agree with him are out.
The man has a vision for his people, for anywhere he is. He's not tribalistic. He believes in fairness and equity. What is good for the goose should be good for the gander. He believes in calling a spade, not calling a spade a shovel. The problem with Along Amaechi is just about betrayals. The person he trusted betrays him.
Amaechi's attempt to get the court to endorse his preferred candidate for the governorship race, architect Tonyeko, had come against a brick wall at every moment throughout the course of the judicial determination of the intra-party feud in Rivers State chapter of the APC. Having been a major beneficiary of the nation's judicial system in 2007, when the Supreme Court installed him governor of Rivers State, most observers are beginning to wonder why he failed to appear in the good books of the same judiciary that championed his cause 12 years ago.
It's not a question of a gang up against him. It's a question of the illegality of his facts. A number of times, the matter got to Supreme Court at preliminary contestations, interlocutory appeals, and the Supreme Court did not mince words in October when they talked about the case, October last year. It did not mince words. Described the situation foisted on the process by the Court of Appeal with very hard terms. Expressly said that the Court of Appeal, in exercising discretion to grant stay of execution over a disobedience, a double disobedience on the orders of a court, exercised sacrilegious discretion, that it amounted to a harakiri, committing suicide, destroying the judicial process.
Justice has been on the side, and the courts have been very benevolent to him. And that is why we are saying that he should at the same time be benevolent to the courts. His misadventure in closing the courts for almost 2 years is quite regrettable, and I think it should something that he should ponder over, because I believe very well, as a member of the judicature, I'm a lawyer, I still find it difficult to reconcile myself with my own perspective of the good aspect of his character with what he did in the courts here for 2 whole years. I think that is totally and completely uncalled for. Then came these elections, and we all know what happened, and I believe that I think it's time for him to look inwards and see how he can bring himself to the reality of the fact that people look up to him. A lot of people put him as a focus of study, and a whole lot of experience will go by, in defining his personality, locating his personality within the context of who an actual leader should be.
That nature has smiled on Right Honorable Chibike Rotimi Amaechi throughout his political career is only stating the obvious. From a background of obscurity, the former chief policymaker of Rivers State catapulted himself to the position of national political prominence. As one-time chairman of the Conference of Speakers and former chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, it is not in doubt that the Honorable Minister of Transportation has formidable political connections that he can readily exploit to his advantage whenever the need arises. While his meteoric rise in politics is viewed in some quarters as an act of providence, it is also interpreted as the outcome of his doggedness and astuteness in politics. In Rivers State, where he has a permanent presence in the minds of his supporters and opponents alike, the Knight of the Order of St. John is viewed both as a hero and villain in political circles, loved by many, disliked by others, but never one to be discountenanced in the political affairs of Rivers State and the rest of the country.
He has shown himself to be a very brave young man. He had fought many battles, and he did that fearlessly. As a leader, he did not lack the courage to take decisions that will have consequences and that will hurt. If he believed in them, he took those decisions. So he's a beautiful profile in bravery, in courage. But I think as a post-chief operator personality, he has a lot to learn in leadership. He needs to learn something about humility and how power and humility can work together. There is too much exhibition of raw power exhibiting by act, exhibiting by speech.
He's an astute politician, very dogged. He understands his onions. He knows how to cut them out properly. And they have played a very fantastic role in bringing the River State, Niger Delta, within the political equation of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's well focused. He has all the traits of leadership. But there are flaws anyway, identifiable flaws that I noticed in him in terms that probably he's a little on the high side of temper, and he doesn't throw in the towel at the time that he needs to, and which is very, very important. The leader should know when to throw in the towel, when to give up on a cause and say, it's okay, I'm done.
In a political setting fraught with deep-seated animosities, disunity has become the bane of peace and progress in Rivers State. Amaechi, who has had the rare privilege of superintending over state affairs at the highest levels for over 2 decades, had in his Easter message asked that all political leaders in the state ask God and the people of Rivers State for forgiveness and mercy for all the things done and left undone, and the pain and anguish the people have brazenly suffered. Could this be interpreted as Rotimi Amaechi initiating a reconciliation process for all political combatants in Rivers State?
In politics, there are no permanent friends, no permanent foes. It's a matter of interests. Politics creates strange bedfellows. You can be enemy today, your friends tomorrow. I think that should be the watchword for anybody who is properly grounded in the rudiments of political engagement. And I don't think animosity should be deep-seated in such a way that will affect the tranquility and stability of your own immediate environment. That is where they get it wrong.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, his recent victory address to Rivers people was one of reconciliation targeted at Rotimi Amaechi and the APC. It was devoid of ambiguity. He called on the APC and Rotimi Amaechi to join hands with him to develop Rivers State.
Now that the legal battle is over, the task of building the state must take precedence over all other considerations. Although the present policies of acrimony and bitterness may have strayed from the noble paths of the past, I still believe that we shall be better off standing and working together for our state and our people. I therefore appeal to the All Progressive Congress and the Minister of Transportation to join hands with us to move our dear state forward. We cannot, as leaders, continue to remain divided and expect government to deliver on its responsibilities to our people. Let us, from henceforth, seek the common ground instead of allowing our differences to be exploited to retard our march to progress.
In their response, the APC in Rivers State addressed a press conference where they formally accepted to work with Governor Nyesom Wike in moving Rivers State forward. For those who thought this was a sign of an eventual reconciliation between Amaechi and Wike, they were disappointed when the duo a week later started taking shots at each other. The first salvo was fired by Amaechi, who in a television interview practically blamed Wike for all the crises in Rivers State.
There's no war going on between Wike and I. What is going on between Wike and I is the fact that he wants to run a second term. It's the fact that he ran a first term in which people were killed. Today he accuses the army and just one policeman. Are you not surprised that in this election he didn't accuse police? You're not surprised? He accuses the army because they refused to take bribe. And that election that INEC stopped the election from going on, nobody was killed. That's the first election in Rivers State that nobody was killed. The governorship election. Then INEC woke up one morning and said, oh no, we stopped this election, there's too much violence. Nobody was killed. When we recorded violence at the presidential election, there was no violence at the state election. Just Wike worked with Mahmoud Yakubu. He was working with him in Third Fund when Wike was Minister of State for Education. That's why he stopped the election in Rivers State, that there was violence. And at that time, Wike had thanked him for stopping that publicly before the press.
In response, Wike expressed regret that the olive branch he extended for peace had been rejected. He reminded Amaechi that he was not the owner of Rivers State.
It is not in his place to say that I should not go for second tenure. It is for the people of Rivers State. It doesn't matter what his opinion is. It doesn't matter because he is not the owner of Rivers State. Mind you, he has said before that the problem with me was that I'm from Ikwere, he's from Ikwere, and then he said he wants equity. And therefore, there's no way he will be finished as governor, and then another Ikwere man goes for governor. And that because I said I would go for governor, that was his problem with me. Now, the problem with me and him, as he said, is that I'm insisting for running for second tenure. So you can see, at every stage, you have one story or the other. Which one? Is it that because I'm an Ikwere person, and therefore I'm not entitled to run after you, or that I didn't do well, and therefore I shouldn't go for second term?
This war of words, if anything, only served to confirm the fears of observers that the political crisis in Rivers State and the animosity between Amaechi and Wike was far from over. In assuming the role providence or even circumstances have entrusted upon him, Rotimi Amaechi is expected to know when to sheath the sword and take the lead in an envisaged reconciliation process. All wars are fought by armed combatants, but none is won or lost in the battlefield. And this is a fact that makes it incumbent on all the major actors in the ensuing political fray in Rivers State to move to the negotiation table, where Chibike Rotimi Amaechi must necessarily take his pride of place.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And with that report, we draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region will be back same time next week on this station. To stay connected with the program, you can follow us on our social media handles showing on your screen right now. On behalf of the production crew, I'm yours sincerely, Mahmoud Akuga, appreciating you for staying tuned. Bye for now.